Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to Watchbox, and thanks for logging on. And thank you for joining me for our ongoing coverage of Baselworld 2018. Now, with so much going on in the fair, it can be difficult to pick highlights, and with so much new product stemming from our favorite brands, it can be difficult to narrow down your absolute favorites. So I'm going to focus on Patek Philippe, possibly the prince of the Baselworld crowd, and I'm going to drill down to my favorite Pateks from Basel this year. Okay, news breaks so fast, so rather than regale you with a litany of new model releases, I want to share my thoughts on the absolute best as I see them through my own eyes. Okay, I also want to note that some of these debuts validated my pre-show predictions, so hooray for me. 5270p Perpetual Calendar Chronograph. All right, this is the one that's been on everyone's lips in the front page of every blog. Now, the first 5270p ever, it harks back to the end-of-cycle ultimate 5970p that you might remember from 2009 and 2010. That was the end of cycle for that revered model. So I don't know if the 5270p Perpetual Calendar might serve the same purpose, but I can certainly say that Patek Philippe has made a statement that will be difficult to top in any event. Back up a little bit, of course, Salmon dials are special in the Patek pantheon, but they've been best known in recent decades on the Olympian 5101p, for example, an absolute blockbuster of a 10-day power reserve chronometer tourbillon, the 1997 5500G Pagoda, also known as the new factory watch, and this watch, which is the 5081A Neptune that I keep begging you to buy and imploring all viewers to buy if they have any interest at all in an investment-worthy and underrated, undervalued modern steel Patek Philippe. That one is not going to last long, but I'm getting beside myself and off track. Salmon dials on the new 5270p model feature Arabic but not Breguet numerals and hands in black and gold for ultimate contrast and elegance. I gotta be honest, it's not a perfect black in tone. It's somewhere between black and anthracite, which is just perfectly chosen for this application. The contrast is immense and warmer than a straight jet black. Now, the case remains 41 millimeters with immaculate caliber 29535 PSQ. Now, there's also a new 5271R on a bracelet. So, eye candy on the reverse side, but on the obverse, this is something we haven't seen before, and between the full bracelet model and the 5270p, I'm beginning to think Patek is moving to explore apex variants of this signature complication, possibly in the interest of a near-future phase-out. When they start showing up like this and with Salmon dials, you have to feel like Patek Philippe is trying to go out with a bang. So that's my conclusion. Now, I would also say that the 5270p Perpetual Calendar is a rare instance in which I implore those of the means and the inclination to consider this new watch, yes, purchase it new, as an investment piece. It also includes some slick matching white gold cufflinks, so you get those as well. But I have a feeling that this watch is going to come right off the production line and enter the absolute peak of the pantheon, the history books, the most exalted ranks of modern Patek. The 5270 was never a gotta-have-it watch. This is the first time I can say it's actually joined that select company. I don't believe this will ever be worth less than the $187,000 US it will sell for new. Okay, moving on to a watch that is anything but complicated, but sublime all the same, which is the Patek Philippe Golden Ellipse 5738/50p. This is kind of a called shot because I said this was coming. I didn't know it would take this form. So here is the anniversary Golden Ellipse that I promised you pre-Basel. 50 years since the original 1968 reference 3548. You can see the case back. This is part of Patek Philippe's rare handcrafts sub-collection, which means it's effectively a métier d'art showcase for Patek Philippe's manufacture. Now, it follows the discontinuation of the entire mid-size Grand Ellipse or Golden Ellipse series, and so this is now the only family, the 5738 collection, and this is its flagship. Each dial includes both black enamel and engraving of florid volute flourishes by freehand technique. So Patek Philippe rarely offering black enamel. I've seen grand complications like the 5074 and the 5078 that featured black dials that were lacquer. That's how infrequently Patek offers black enamel. Of course, that's not the whole story here. If we can go back to the full screen, because it's definitely worth a second look. That dial is not just freehand engraved with black enamel, but it's actually freehand engraved and enameled on a white gold 18-karat base. Absolutely gorgeous. This is not so much Art Deco as it is Art Nouveau. Absolutely stunning, and because it is freehand engraved, no two exactly alike. Now, it's a stunning testament to the artisanal virtuosity of Patek's staff, and each example easily throws shade on most grand complications. Now, this is an ultra-thin automatic watch at 6.58 millimeters in profile, thanks to a caliber 240 micro-rotor automatic movement. The watch is 39.5 millimeters tall by 34.5 overall across the girth of the case, approximating the golden ratio of roughly 1.618, and that is the namesake of the watch. It doesn't have to be a golden case to be a golden ellipse. Finally, only 100 pieces will be offered, yes, once again, with matching cufflinks. That said, I don't have pricing, and my sense is that if you have to ask, well, you know what they say. That plus a wait list and an application. Get your pencils ready. All right. One perhaps a bit more accessible and undoubtedly cheaper to purchase, though not cheap, is the Patek Philippe 5205-13. This is the best version of this watch yet. So the finest and most compelling 5205 annual calendar since the model's 2010 Baselworld debut. Its dial recalls the electrifying diamond-set blue gradient dial of the 2017 5170p. While that one courted some controversy with gemstones as our indices, the 5205-13 is an unqualified sensation because the 5170p at $96,000 featured the gems that not all enjoyed, but the new annual calendar with the same dial treatment and no diamonds costs just under $48,000 US, and it's not an application piece. Moreover, the gradient blue dial sizzles at the center and then fades to a dark black or a navy at its periphery. A subtle metallic grain promises exceptional response to changing light conditions, so expect a very dynamic dial in the light. Now, clever hollow lugs with scalloped profiles and open lateral ports pair the visual mass, and I have to remind you, though this is not the most elegant of Patek Philippe case profiles, it's got a little bit of a tubbiness to it. It's still less than 12 millimeters thick in total, so it is objectively slim. Easily sliding underneath a dress cuff, you can see how the lugs are scalloped out. You can actually see the strap through the lugs from the side, and they use a concave bezel profile to pare down the visual volume of the watch. I would even say the white gold 40 millimeter annual calendar in this iteration is the most compelling version of the 5205 to date, and it even rivals the splendid 5235G regulator for the title of King of Patek Philippe's annual calendar collection. And that is an important title and station because Patek Philippe invented the annual calendar, and the King of the Patek annuals is a special piece indeed. Now, from annual calendars, which Patek Philippe would categorized as complications, to grand complications, or grande complications, for those of you who prefer a more rounded vowel, the Patek Philippe 5531R World Time Minute Repeater. I told you, I called the shot this year, and one of the shots I called was a serialized version of the watch that we saw in a 10-piece 5135R New York edition at last July's Grand Exhibition. So we had two versions of 5 pieces each for New York with cloisonné enamel New York City skylines. Of course, with a patented mechanism that undoubtedly cost over $1 million Swiss francs to develop, there was no way Patek was going to make 5 of these in 2 copies for 10 total and then just call it quits. So, the 5531R returns for 2018 as a cloisonné enamel dial application piece within the rare handcrafts collection like the 5738 50p. So within its 40.2 millimeter by 11.4 millimeter thick red gold case, this watch really has it all. Automatic winding for convenience, a minute repeater for romance, a world time display for practical travel use, and that hand-painted cloisonné enamel dial for handcrafted beauty, the image of Lake Geneva. Now, of course, you're going to have to bring about $550,000 and expect very little change in return. There may be a wait, and yes, a pop quiz in the form of an application to be graded by the Stern family is part of the equation. All the same, worth the wait. Now, my fifth favorite is not this. No, that is not my favorite Patek sports watch complication of the show. That honor goes to the Aquanaut Chronograph, which delivers for 2018. This is a cheerful, fun, and upbeat reference from a company that some feel takes itself too seriously. Here's some proof that they don't. Now, freewheeling and fun without pretense, this reference 5968A lacks the baggage and hype that seems to linger over the increasingly tense and frantic Nautilus collector scene and marketplace. Handsome dial tones here, with textures and colors, amount to a fun and lively countenance that seems better matched to the mission and spirit of a luxury sports watch than the weighty hauteur of each successive Nautilus complication. I've often remarked that the world needs more orange watches, and this 42.2 millimeter steel Aquanaut Chrono delivers. A flyback automatic winding caliber CH28520 keeps good times spinning inside the vessel, and yes, despite the through fittings for the chronograph pushers, it retains its 120-meter water resistance for wear-it-all-the-time versatility. Plus, at $43,770, the watch is never likely to lose value. I can't imagine it ever being worth less than its retail price. And I'll also say it's one of the most attractively priced Patek Philippe novelties of this year. We've seen years when Patek Philippe has thrown out more than twice as many new watches and variants as it launched this year, but I will take quality over quantity any year. Thanks for joining me for Patek Philippe 2018. Stay tuned to the Watch Box and subscribe for the remainder of our 2018 Baselworld news and analysis.